Hey everyone, welcome back to the English Hour. I'm so glad you're here today because we're going to talk about something that almost every English learner struggles with, the frustrating experience of wanting to speak English but constantly forgetting the words. You know that feeling, right? You're in the middle of a conversation or trying to answer a question, and suddenly your mind goes blank. The words you studied, the sentences you practiced, they just vanish. It's like your brain has decided to take a coffee break at the worst possible moment. First, let me tell you this. This is completely normal. Forgetting words doesn't mean you're not smart or that you can't learn English. It doesn't mean you're failing. It simply means that your brain is still learning to organize and retrieve new information efficiently. Speaking a foreign language is not just about memorizing vocabulary, it's about training your brain to access the words when you need them. I remember when I first started learning English, I had the same problem. I would read a new word in a book or hear it in a video and think, okay, I'll remember this. But then, when it came time to speak, the word would disappear like it was hiding. I would freeze, stammer, or sometimes just give up on saying anything at all. It was frustrating and demotivating. But over time, I learned that forgetting words isn't the problem. It's just a signal that your brain needs a smarter strategy. So, how do you fix it? How do you stop forgetting the words and start speaking smoothly? The first thing to understand is that repetition alone is not enough. You can repeat a word 100 times, but if you never use it in context, your brain won't fully store it. Words need to be connected to meaning, experience, and action. They need to be alive in your memory, not just floating around in a notebook. Let me give you an example. I had a student named Amir who would memorize dozens of words every week. He could recite them perfectly when asked, but the moment we started a conversation, he forgot almost all of them. I asked him, "How do you use these words in your daily life?" He looked at me blankly. And that was the problem. The words existed in his head, but they weren't connected to real situations. So, I taught him a new approach. Instead of memorizing words in isolation, he would practice them in sentences and stories that matter to him. For instance, if he learned the word amazing, he wouldn't just write the definition or memorize it. He would make a sentence. "The movie I watched yesterday was amazing." Then, the next day, he would use it in another sentence about his own experience. Slowly, the word started to stick because it wasn't just a word anymore. It was part of his life, part of his thinking, part of a real context. Another key strategy is thinking in English rather than translating. One of the main reasons learners forget words is that their brain is busy translating from their native language. When you try to convert every thought, it creates a bottleneck, and often the word just disappears. But when you train your mind to think directly in English, the words flow naturally. You can start small. Describe what you're doing, what you see, or what you're feeling in English. The more you practice this, the easier it becomes to recall the words when you actually need them. I also want to emphasize the power of active recall and spaced repetition. It's not enough to see or read a word once or twice. You need to test yourself regularly. Write down a word, cover the definition, and try to recall it. Use flashcards or apps if you like, But the secret is to revisit the word multiple times over increasing intervals the next day, 3 days later, a week later. Every time you retrieve it successfully, your brain strengthens that memory pathway, making it easier to recall in conversation. Now, here's a simple habit that works wonders. Whenever you learn a new word, immediately use it, speak it, write it, or even think it in your mind. For example, if you learn challenge, you can say, "Today I faced a big challenge at work," or "Learning English is a challenge, but I'm improving." Using words in context immediately after learning them cements them in your memory far better than rote memorization. I want to share another story. My friend Sarah used to panic every time she tried speaking English. She would prepare her sentences, but in the moment, everything vanished. Then she started a daily habit every morning. She would describe her plans or thoughts in English for 5 minutes. She didn't worry about mistakes or perfection. She just spoke. After a few weeks, she noticed something amazing. Her words were flowing more easily, and she rarely forgot what she wanted to say. That's the magic of consistent practice and using words actively. It's also important to reduce the fear of making mistakes. Many learners forget words because they are anxious or afraid of sounding wrong. But mistakes are part of the process. Fluent speakers make mistakes all the time. The difference is they keep going. When you let go of perfection and focus on communication, your brain relaxes and words come to you more easily. Finally, remember that building a strong vocabulary is like training a muscle. You can't expect overnight results. Start small, focus on meaningful words, use them in real situations, practice thinking in English, and revisit them regularly. Over time, you'll notice that the words stop slipping away. You'll feel more confident, more fluent, and more natural when speaking. So, if you've ever said, "I want to speak English, but I always forget the words," know that the solution isn't to memorize harder. The solution is to memorize smarter, use words actively, and train your brain to think in English. Start applying these strategies today, and I promise, speaking English will feel less stressful and much more natural. Thank you for joining me on the English Hour. Start practicing these habits now. Speak, write, and think in English every day. With consistent effort, the words will start coming naturally, and the frustration of forgetting them will disappear. Keep learning, keep practicing, and keep speaking. Your fluency is just around the corner.